etude number 1 is in a 5/4 time signature, so just make note of that and be very careful when counting this one. So there's a repeating motive all the way throughout where we have a higher note that's staccato and then a lower note that's accent. So be sure you're really clear on that, especially with the low note being accented all the way throughout here. Dynamically, it starts forte, then all of a sudden in bar 3 it goes down to the mezzo piano. So make a good change of that. And then the second measure of the second line, there's a rallentando. So it's going to slow down quite a bit. I would cut off the second note with a fermato, the C. Take a little pause, take a breath before going on to the end. On the last note, just count it really, really carefully. Be sure it's right off on beat 5. Watch out for your key signature in etude number 2. We've got 4 sharps, so be sure you mark all those all the way throughout. They're really easy to miss if you don't mark them in. We are dealing with a 4/8 time signature, which is a little bit strange, so just be aware of that. It's marked 72, so it goes from 4 for every bar all the way throughout. Try to be as musical as you can all the way throughout this etude, and try to really break up the dynamic changes as much as you can too as well. The bar before the odd tempo, there's a retard. It's going to slow down quite a bit. And then be sure you do take the breath mark at the end of the measure. Take a little pause before going odd. The first measure of the odd tempo, we have some fingering things that are problematic. So it starts with the G sharp, and then we go F sharp, low E, and the back of the G sharp. So between the G sharp and the F sharp, you're going to have to slide your pinky on the right hand. Then after you hit the F sharp, you can go to E on the left and G sharp on the right. It's a pretty complex pattern, so you're definitely going to want to practice that and really be sure that you've got that down. Watch out for the double sharp. The first measure of the third line is F double sharp. It's the same as G. And then be sure the retard at the end, be sure you're very clear about that. And do a lot with the last notes. The E has a fermato over it, and there's a crescendo and decrescendo. Really be sure you bring that out, and really be sure you're very, very clear about that at the end. Number 3 has a mixed meter to it, so it goes from 3/4 to 3/8 all the way throughout here. So the tempo is written at quarter note 116. You can also think of the 8th note 232 for the tempo too as well. The 8th note stays consistent between the 3/4 and the 3/8. Definitely want to start from the slower side to be sure you've got the timing of this really good. As far as dynamics in this piece goes, we have a lot of phrases where it starts with one forte note and then goes down to the mezzo piano. So you want to be sure you're very, very clear about that and be sure you're really bringing that out quite a bit. In measure number 5, you're going to have to jump from E flat up to A flat when you get to beat 3. So be sure you re-articulate the note and be sure you make the hop here. Since we can only play E flat on the right hand and we can only play A flat on the right hand, you're going to have to jump there a little bit to make it work. Watch out for the accents in here. There's accents interspersed in the second line, so be sure you bring those out quite a bit. We have the pattern of hitting the first note forte and then changing to the mezzo piano. Changes when we get to the third measure of the second line. It's a solid forte, so be sure you bring that and you're very, very clear about that. And then for the last note, be sure it's full value and really, really big and full. So etude number 4 is in cut time 2/2, so be sure you're counting that very, very carefully. Really be sure you're hitting the first and second beats all the way throughout here. Bum, 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 ba dee da dee da dee da dum. It'll be really easy to compress those and get those in the wrong spot. Watch your dynamics very, very carefully. So at the beginning we have these it's forte, then comes down the mezzo forte, back up to forte. Be sure you bring that out quite a bit. And then we get to the second line, third measure. All of a sudden it drops down to mezzo piano, so watch those dynamics carefully there too as well. Big crescendo in the third line. Be sure it goes all the way from piano all the way up to forte, so to speak. Be sure you really bring that out. Be sure the sixth couplet in the second measure of the last line, that's that you don't rush it. It's just a correct scale, so watch out for that. And then for the last two bars, the very, very last note, be sure you wait for it. Bum ba dum, bum ba dum, bum ba dum, bum. So be sure you wait for that. It's going to be really, really tempted to put that too early. Number 5s in 4 flats, so be sure you mark all those in. They can be really easy to miss all the way throughout here. It's very slow. It's marked at 52 for the chord note, so you can also think of this 8th note 104. That can make it a little easier for this to flow. It's marked rubato too, so you can take a little bit of liberties of the timing all the way throughout to bring out the musical side of this. And you want to bring out the musical side as much as possible with this etude too as well. In the second bar, we have a weird trill. It goes from D flat to E flat. So how you're going to want to do this is you finger the D flat and you leave that fingering down, and then you trill with the bottom side key. It's not the best sounding trill, but really there's no other way to do it, and this is going to be the best option that you have. When you get to the second line, there's a poco stringendo, which means it's going to pick up a little bit. You want to be sure you're bringing up the tempo as you bring the dynamic level up too as well. Really make this part very, very dramatic. When you get to the second measure of the second line, the chord note has a fermata over it. Be sure you hold that into the next bar and don't take a breath there. We want to be sure we hear that effect really, really clearly. It gets softer as it gets toward the end, so every time you get an entrance, be sure it comes down just a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. And then there's a retard in the last bar. Just be sure you really slow it down quite a bit. Take that last note and fade it all the way to nothing. This is the last etude you'll hear in your all-stay audition, so you want to be, if you do that at the end, you're going to go out in the high note.